All right, good afternoon. Okay, good morning still. My name is Dharshan. Thank you, Mark. I basically lead a company called SISA. We are a forensic-driven cybersecurity company. And I'm here to talk about mobile payments. The future of payments as mobile is not an if statement. It's more in terms of when and how soon. So during the next 20 minutes, Andrew spoke about the acceptance as one of the form factors of payments. You have both the issuing and the acceptance. My focus is largely on the issuance side, and let's walk through, as a community, how do we balance those, the technology adoption of mobile with cyber risks. So that's the focus area for me for the next 20 minutes. Over the next, I kind of fundamentally break the entire presentation into three parts. One is the way the entire digital payment ecosystem has evolved over the last couple of years, thanks to the pandemic. The second is, of course, the mobile form factors of payments on the issuance side, and the cyber risks that we are actually seeing as a forensic investigator. And three is, of course, what can we do in terms of, as a community, to solve this problem as we move forward. And standards which are coming through in this space is going to be extremely interesting, but more so as we as a cybersecurity professionals, what can we do in order to address these risks? So let's get started. So the first and foremost, on the first section, on the trends that we are seeing over the last couple of years, is the wallet share, the mobile wallets, I'm talking about the issuance side, has grown phenomenally. Just in the year 2020, the growth has been equal to what was 3 years growth between 2016 to 2019. So if you look at this, 35% to 41% growth was actually between 2016 and 2019. But then just in 1 year in 2020, there was a 5% growth of mobile payments, largely on the issuance side, again, the mobile wallets. It's expected that this number has grown significantly higher, and it's going to go significantly higher as we move forward. And very soon, that form factor of payment is going to substitute the other form factors of payments, including the plastic that we all carry today. And I'm sure all of us are already on our journey of using mobile payments significantly. The second other interesting data point for all of us, before we get into the mobile form factors of payments, is the way the entire digitization of cash is happening across the world. A different perspective for you. Across the world, if you see, there's a significant amount of growth that is happening in markets like Asia-Pacific region, largely because of the fact that they had a lower base. So, but then you'd see that over the next, between 20 to 2025, they're expecting that the volume to actually grow by 82%. So there is going to be a significant increase of digitization of cash payments, digitization of payments as we move forward. And from 2025 to 2030, it's almost about 61%, largely led by Asia-Pacific, but markets across the world are also going to follow a similar trend, which is obviously, thanks to the mobile payment ecosystem, is going to really ride that journey for all of us as we move forward as an industry. The third other trend that we need to watch out for is the growth of cryptocurrencies. Just in the first 6 months of 2021, there were about 3 billion transactions which was done, worth of transactions on cryptocurrencies, which is a huge, huge, significant amount of value, despite having a lot of restrictions in terms of volatility, slowness of conversion of transactions completion on crypto. Despite that, the kind of volume that we are seeing is incredible. But thanks to pegging of that against stable coins, such as US dollars, or for that matter, euros or pounds, and then or against precious metals, you see stable coins, things like about 82 central banks have committed that they're going to move towards CBDC, or central bank digital currencies. And that's a huge, huge movement that is happening in the digital payment ecosystem. And of course, because of the pandemic, the cross-border payments, so the second exhibit that you see, the cross-border payments have struggled because of the pandemic, but you'd see, once again, that room getting occupied by cryptocurrencies because they facilitate lower cost of transfers between regions. So what does this mean to mobile payments? On the issuing side, there's going to be significant movement and across these 6 form factors of payments. Largely the 6 form factors that I've listed, but obviously the industry is going to innovate, and a lot of those are going to come by. The first is the mobile wallets. All of us use it today, Apple Pay, Google Pay, so on and so forth. And that's going to be a major form factor of payments. And in multiple countries, multiple ways in which regulators have actually pushed for it. We've got the open wallet concept where you can make payments, and so largely restricted in terms of the value of transaction. Then you've got the closed wallet system, and then you've got semi-closed. And regulations obviously play a role in it, and of course the transaction limits. And that is something that is going to press across. And one of the key trends that you would see is different markets are going to use different form factor of payments, and you would see that largely happening already in key markets. The second is, of course, digital currency. We spoke about CBDC, central bank digital currencies here, which is one of the form factors of payments, which is going to increase with the fact that the central banks would want to have more control, along with, of course, privatization of some of those digital currencies that is going to be seen as we move forward. Third, of course, is the quick response code, which for all of you who are familiar with it, how it got started was from the Japanese automobile industry, and many of us here in the US would use that for locating information, including my visiting cards has a QR code, probably to locate a location, or for that matter, looking up a particular URL. But that is also being used in certain markets for payments today. For example, the country that I come from, India, we've got 9 million merchants who today use QR code to accept payments. So basically, you can go into any of the merchant places, scan the QR code, and then make a digital payment to them. The other usage of a QR code has been that you can accept payments. As a business owner, you can have a QR code on your phone, and the merchant would scan that and then initiate a push payment that's, we've had, I'll come to that a little later. So QR code has been one form factor of payments, which is wherever there is, wherever the payment rails have not really been developed, this is becoming a great use case, largely because the cost of having a point of sale terminal is gone away. And then even for that matter, you don't even have to have a card because you just do basically using your phone. The fourth one is about real-time payments. Many of these countries have got that. In the US, FedNow is likely to come out in 2023 is what I understand, which is going to make sure that you can make a payment 24/7, 365 days a year, and it's going to be immediate settlement too. And you've got concepts like Visa Push or MasterCard Push payments, which is technically not a real-time payment because the settlement may not be immediate, but is going to give a lot of instant transfer of money, which really will push mobile payments to a next level because of the fact that you can now make transactions between one customer, one user to the other user. The fifth form factor of payments that is going to evolve is, of course, the digital wallets, which is focused towards online transactions, e-commerce transactions. So with the increased adoption of IoT, I was just using 5G here in Canada, and then we've seen huge IoT growth. IoT, it's believed that the IoT devices have now exceeded the number of mobile devices that we've got, and it's growing about 23% compounded annual growth in terms of its usage. So that linked with your mobile wallets is going to make those transactions happen. So you could very soon have your milk delivered at your doorstep, and the only time you realize is when you actually open the door, because your refrigerator would have already placed the order. That kind of payments is very soon in the making, if not already happened. And then, of course, virtual cards, which is a concept which has been there in the system for long, to reduce the attack surface, which is using of a random PAN for a particular transaction in order to make it for a particular transaction, a singular transaction. But in all, these form factors of mobile payments are only going to increase, and the acceptance part of it, I'm sure we had it covered earlier session, but the issuance is going to be the key ways in which end users are going to come through with their payments. So why are we here for? So how do we balance this technology adoption with the cyber risks? But before that, it's good to actually quickly go over what are we seeing in the marketplace, right? To the extent that is there. Earlier this morning, I was just talking to one of our forensic investigators, and he was talking about the fact that there was a bank which had a software which was supplied by a particular software vendor, a mobile application, and this mobile application was used to make a payment for the end user. A customer had to make a payment to another customer, and some of the employees of that particular bank figured it out that this application had a flaw, had an insecure code, which essentially allowed the user, without having sufficient balance, to make a payment to another user. And then as soon as they figured that out, they basically started a group of people came together and did a fraud, which ran into for millions of dollars over a period of time. These kinds of things are, of course, not restricted only to mobile payments, but are going to increase, considering the fact that there's going to be immediate settlement and faster payments that is going to come through. And obviously, frauds are going to increase. From the US context, you would see a lot, there's been a major e-commerce merchants app which had got compromised and revealed a lot of private data of users, including their home addresses and so on and so forth. There was a major disclosure that happened. We've had, so one of the other attack vectors that we are seeing is using, even if it is not disclosure of sensitive data, using transaction history. Many of the users have been targeted to reveal sensitive information. And that's not just in one part of the world, but across. So, like for example, if you were to, trick a particular user, calling him or her based on the kind of merchant or the kind of item he or she bought over an online commerce, and make them, fall prey to a refund transaction. Those are the kind of attack vectors we are seeing, where the usage of data, and not just sensitive information. You don't need to have account data to compromise a particular user. So these kinds of breaches are what we are also seeing across the marketplace. And then, of course, you've got the traditional applications impacting users because of insecure coding and so on and so forth. And I wouldn't want to get into the details of which, but all of us are familiar that there have been major compromises that have happened, including a large mobile company which had to make an immediate release for a zero-day vulnerability that got released, having to patch about 900 million devices. And this was done by a group which professes for supporting governments to to compromise and to enforce law, and that's one of the use case that they have. But it was actually publicly disclosed, and then they had to make an immediate patch for about 900 million devices. So in all, the payment ecosystem, as we all get into, is obviously the compromises are going to increase as we move forward. So as a forensics-driven cybersecurity company, one of the key things that we try to do across board is to follow the 4D concept, is of course to deconstruct a cyber or a breach, try to decipher how and when it happened, and then of course develop what are the key learnings or controls that if we had would essentially have prevented this kind or detected this compromise as it would have happened. And then of course disseminate those learnings in cybersecurity solutions that would come by. So what have we seen? So using the forensic-driven cybersecurity approach, what have we kind of understood from the breaches that are happening around mobile payments? Largely, you could revolve around these 6 areas, but then if you were to consolidate them, it basically would come into 2 major areas. One is, of course, insecure coding, and I'm glad that we've got the PCI software lifecycle framework, which is the standard and which has come in place. I'm sure many of you are aware of that. But the fact of the day is today security trails business priorities. Organizations, especially in the mobile payment space, there are multiple releases done in a day, if not more, and organizations have, or developers have, their first priority is functionality and making sure the usability of those applications are given priority over security. And obviously security has, with the speed of development, speed of release coming in place, security is obviously trying to catch up. And one of the key things that we've seen organizations, and we encourage organizations, is to have the DevSecOps concept and try to integrate security as early. We're all familiar with the concept of shifting left, but now it's shift everywhere. At the end of the day, to ensure that security is taken care at every stage of the game. And introducing and getting developers and automating that entire process as part of your DevOps is going to be critical. The second is, of course, the insecure network configurations. We've had this concept of actually the man-in-the-middle attacks that have happened. One of the largest telco providers in the US had a class lawsuit for which they agreed to settle, which is about $300 million because of insecure network configurations. And then you have insecure storage in the device, especially transaction history, those being compromised. Of course, mobile are also highly susceptible for ransomwares, and you've got these kinds of data also being compromised. And then, of course, you've got the insecure protection of sensitive data, and we all know in the mobile payments world how critical the sensitive data is, which needs to be taken care of. So last, to conclude, so what does it mean for us as payment security professionals? One, we spoke about the fact that we need to take care of the integration, especially the technological integration. I'm given to understand about 70% of all commercial software have some component of open source code which they inject or which they integrate with, or rather which they adopt. And then, of course, you have cloud providers providing SDKs just that you can have speed of development. But things like software composition analysis and things like that are ways to actually mitigate and encourage largely protecting organizations and applications that come around it. And then, of course, you need to be careful about the local governance standards and adherence, considering that different regions and different territories operate in a different way, and one has to be very, very careful about being, for example, in Africa, USSD as one of the protocols for communication may not be acceptable in a country such as, say, India, where USSD protocol is actually, which is used as a telecommunication protocol, is not so much appreciated by the regulator. And then, of course, you've got various standards. I wouldn't go into details of it. We've got SPoC, CPoC, and then, of course, soon to be released the MPoC, which can really help in terms of securing the acceptance side of it. And then, keeping in mind the target customer analysis and form factor vis-a-vis the customer, because you would also need to have restrictions in terms of the transaction volume and of course, the financial amount that you can actually end up paying that. So with that, one of the key things that I would essentially say is having the key learnings from all these investigations. One of the key things that we've kind of can keep in mind from a balancing with the mobile technology adoption versus cyber risk is the development and making sure that the code that is getting released is properly from a development standpoint, making sure that they are coded right, and of course tested at the and just not tested once, but tested repeatedly, and then making sure that you have proper network configurations. We have a forensic learnings report that we publish every year. It's there by our booth, so if you are interested, any of you are interested in learning more about this, please come by and we'll be happy to discuss further on this. With that, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate. Thank you. Thank you.